All right, all rise, please, for the pledge. Let's begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So are there any emergency additions to the agenda?
There is none.
Great. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of January 12th. I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
With my abstention.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Minutes are approved. Now we have our student representative, Nick.
Okay. So Miramonte News, the spelling bee for grades 4 through 6 took place last week. The Imagine concert at OVCC for grades 4 through 6 will take place on February 5th. Visitation day for potentially new MM families will take place on February 26th. There will be a technology showcase for grades 3 through 6 on February 26th. The Miners Oaks News, Hydration Station Penny Drive. Miners Oaks PTA presents their first ever Penny Drive. Help our campus go green by raising funds to provide a new drinking fountain / bottle filler. The new system will provide chill filtered drinking water to our students. They will be able to fill their water bottles or drink from the spout. Here's how. Each class will try to raise the most money by bringing in change from now through February 5th. The class who collects the most change will win an ice cream party. Remember, every penny counts. They will have a dinner night out, rotisserie and spaghetteria.
Spoons, that's tonight.
Is offering a dinner night out to benefit our school on Tuesday, February 2nd from 5 to 8 p.m. 20% of all proceeds will be donated to the school. Please come out and enjoy some great local food while supporting Miners Oaks Elementary School. Then Matilaha News. On January 19th, students from Matilaha Intermediate Band were paid a visit by Carl Hunter, the saxophone and clarinet soloist from the Grammy-nominated platinum-selling band Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. Mr. Hunter invites all woodwind students to a master class that is free and open to the public. The class will take place in the Matilaha Auditorium on Monday, February 8th at 7 p.m. Last week during lunch, Ms. Kirk hosted Matilaha's annual school-wide spelling bee. Our library was filled with the winners from the individual classroom competitions. The winner of the school bee will advance to represent Matilaha at the district level. The students were amazing, several hanging on for several rounds, finishing at the top. First runner-up, Adam Jones, and bee champion Abigail Austin. Congratulations to our competitors. Matilaha has many clubs and meetings on campus. Jazz Band Wednesday at lunch in room 26. Magic the Gathering Thursday at lunch in room 18. Garden Club Fridays at 2:30 in room 10. And Ukulele Club Fridays at lunch in room 28. The Nordhoff News, the winter rally was very successful. The Mort Dance was a lot of fun. We sold 205 tickets. We hired a new basketball coach, Sean Strebin, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Amber Hale is leaving on maternity leave and will be replaced by Michelle Fitzgerald. Roxanne Farrar is retiring and is being replaced by, I believe it's Essie Lansver. And Cliff Farrar, who was the PE teacher, will be replaced by Tony Rainman. And we will have a new CTE class next year in environmental energy. It's an environmental energy and agriculture sustainability taught by Brandon Titus, who will also be coaching football. And then the Topa News. The school spelling bee took place on January 28th. 4th through 6th grades will attend the Imagine concert on February 5th. The Topa school tour will be Thursday, February 11th. Our tour is geared towards families that may be interested in enrolling students in the fall of 2016. The Summit School News. Summit School students enjoyed a musical performance by guitarist Randy Rothmel, I believe. Randy shared some of the history of American folk music and encouraged students to join him as he sang and played songs such as If I Had a Hammer, 500 Miles, Blown in the Wind, Alligator Pie, Blackbird, and an anti-bully song by Peter, Paul, and Mary called Don't Laugh at Me. The kids appreciated having Mr. Rothermel visit and asked him to return again. Summit Spelling Bee champion is 6th grader Charlotte Seedlack, I believe, and runner-up is 6th grader Andrew Chavez. And San Antonio School News, which is the last one. Sorry, it's so long. They had a jogathon. San Antonio School recently held their annual jogathon hosted by the PTO, but I feel like that is a typo, and coordinated by the parent Charlie Hancock, I believe. The weather was perfect for this event with temperatures in the low 70s and enough cloud cover to prevent serious sunburns. Students kindergarten through 6 ran and walked laps with enthusiasm, celebrating the conclusion of the events with cold big sticks. Yum. San Antonio Spelling Bee champion is 5th grader Ava Tooley Giles. Runner-up is 4th grader Catherine Tooley. That was all.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. And as usual, if you wish to stay, you may, or we know you have lots to do, you may leave. But thank you for such a thorough report. Anybody have any questions for her?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we move on to, do we have any public comments? None received? None, okay. Now we're moving on to our personnel section of our action calendar. 7.1.1, a letter of intent from the Ojai Federation of Teachers. We're having a public hearing. The board is asked to receive this letter and to open a public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move to open the hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any comments from the public about this? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So now we're going to take action to accept the letter of intent from the Ojai Federation of Teachers to initiate negotiations for the 2016-17 school year. So would anybody like to move to accept the letter?
I will.
I'll second.
All right, any questions about this? All right, all in favor of accepting the letter?
Aye.
Thank you, so that passes. All right, so now we are moving on to our initial district proposal, 7.1.2, to the Ojai Federation of Teachers. This is an information item. So, Hank, is this?
I think the memo from me to Angie's organization, copy to the board, is self-explanatory. Andy and I had a really excellent experience this past spring, working with Angie and her team to construct the 2015-16 salary schedule. You know, obviously it was a major step forward for everybody, and we're looking forward to similar conversations for 16-17 compensation and other related issues.
So this contract review is performed by the contract committee, which will meet and do a good job for the teachers. Okay, so thank you. Now we're moving on to curriculum instruction. This is a report of the Matilaha Introduction to Music class. This will be a component of the elective wheel, and this is an action item. So I believe Mr. Rosen and Mr. Friedrichsen will be talking about this.
Well, good evening. Nice to see you all again. So I'm very excited to come to you. I know that you had a chance to look at our proposal, and we're really excited about the idea of expanding the music program so that kids who don't touch music during their time at Matilaha, about another 90 to 100 of those kids would have an opportunity if the board accepts our proposal. So I brought with me Thomas Frederickson. We're very excited to have him. He's been with us for 2 years, doing just a super job at the school. So I'm going to let him talk to you about the class, and he actually brought something with him in a bag.
Are you gonna play?
If you'll sing.
You don't want that.
Buy a hammer? I mean, that's, Mr. Rothermel, he's sort of back in my vintage here. Peter, Paul, and Mary.
All those.
Only-
So I'm very excited about the proposed class. I think if it's something we move forward with, I think it would be a wonderful thing for our students in middle school and also in high school. It'll do some really great things for our music program. It'll expand the current number of students involved and also open a pathway for students that haven't been trained in music to move into the other music department classes. It's going to be based on the ukulele, which is an awesome instrument for students to begin on because it has a really low floor but high ceiling, and so it allows students to really jump in quick and start learning about music and not being bogged down by the technical aspects of it. And it's going to be really great for cultural literacy, talking about some of the folk songs that was sung by Mr. Rothermel. That's going to be really a core of the class if is the way it's designed and proposed. And I'm just excited. I think it's going to be it will do some awesome things if we move forward with this.
Ukulele?
Yes, I brought my instrument.
You do have to give us a little sample.
Since you have a club, I figured you had a ukulele.
I told that you could play,
Yeah.
that you could play.
Yeah, I could play that low floor. Just think of a 12-year-old, 13-year-old when you hear me.
And so I'll play a song that I'm hoping everybody here has heard, but if not, it's time. Where the stars they shine so bright. Love your peace and calm. I hear the birds are singing. We love you, oh yes we do. This little valley, this valley of
Thomas, I was totally against it until that.
Turn it down after that, there you go.
I'm all in now.
For you or for the students, you gonna come?
He can sing. He's good.
Oh, I know. You should hear his son.
I know that too.
Oh, man.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Bill, do you know how many students actually come from the elementary with some training that don't enter the music program? I mean, I know Mirai has...
Catherine, I'm sure.
Maybe knows.
Well, I wish I could just toss them, I'd have to go back and check the actual numbers, but we do an exit survey every year. Lillian was right now going through all this, well, she'll start soon with the 6th graders. She's right now checking with the 8th graders to see how many of them are going to go on to music at the high school. So I could certainly give you that number.
But only one of the elementaries requires music participation? Or
That is correct, yes.
Which one?
That would be Mirai.
That's yours.
The kids have the option of.
And all the 6th graders at Myers Oaks learn the violin.
Right, gotcha.
The 6th graders program.
I think a pretty high percentage of 6th graders have had some experience, right?
Right.
Tova?
It's pretty high, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
We had very large numbers, especially last year, so we moved to more of an optional sort of
Right, it was
offering,
optional.
but I would say the huge majority take
I bet you we're
music.
85, 90%
Yeah.
by the time we're done.
So
Of the
Thomas,
kids
that
participating.
interested me that you said the real focus, because reading through it, I was worried that too much of the focus would be on, sort of learning notes and half notes, but it seems like that you kind of probably go through that quickly, and then it becomes something that's I'm very interested in adding another art to the wheel, and I think it's a great idea, and as long as you're open to flying with them, if you find that they're
Oh, yeah.
higher than you expected them to be.
Yeah, and then with an instrument like ukulele, there's an entire like section of musicianship that's not open to students playing a band instrument or an orchestral string instrument, in that you're playing chords, you're singing along, and so it's really it's awesome because there is such a low floor to it, but it's really a great instrument for differentiating. I mean, you can take it to pretty incredible lengths, and so wherever the students are, I think it's awesome. You can meet them where they are.
That's great. And will all kids, including kids who maybe are in intervention programs, will those be included in the music theory program? Will they have time in their schedule for that?
So every kid who is in the wheel
Okay.
would have an opportunity, and not all students are in the wheel.
Okay.
So about somewhere, depending on the enrollment, somewhere between, say, 85 and 100 kids would rotate through the 3 different
Okay.
spokes of the wheel in a year. Some kids are in intervention classes because that's where they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so and we're very fortunate to have right now 4 general education intervention classes. And we're really excited about that. The reality, though, is that those kids move into, say, a reading support or math support or a directed studies, and they come out of the elective wheel.
Okay.
And so, but we try to move them through in a very fluid enrollment so that once they're ready, we can graduate them out back into the other courses.
Okay.
So that's our goal.
Yeah.
And it seems to be working. We just had 2 more kids come out of reading support and 2 more come in, by the way.
Okay.
So excited.
I'm sorry, and I just lived this last year, but I just, it's not clear to me. So who is in the wheel? Like someone's formally taking music is not in the wheel, because that's their elective, right?
That's their thing.
The formal music is.
Mm-hmm.
Who's in the wheel then? Everyone else, but what kids?
Well, there might be, let's say if you're an 8th grader,
Yeah.
you might be in Spanish 8.
Right.
Or you might be in leadership.
Right. And
so
those would be alternatives to the wheel.
Right, exactly. Those are 1-year electives where the wheel is 12, 12, and 12 weeks.
Got it. And I know, and you guys did something different. You were a little more, you allowed some kids to be able to, like I know my son did both Spanish and music.
Because what we did was
You did
we have a very limited enrollment in independent study, physical education.
That
I
was
think
it,
this year we
yeah.
have 12 students involved. I think last year maybe we had 16 or 17 the whole year. I think we just had a number 13. So those kids who are already in music or kids who are 8th grade who want to take Spanish, they want to get a jump on Spanish, but they also don't want to come out of advanced band or advanced orchestra. They have the option of doing both, so long as they're willing to keep a log and meet with the independent study.
I thought that was awesome.
We're really excited.
I'm glad you're
It's a
still
small
doing it.
number of kids, but it makes a big difference for kids who want to be in Spanish or they want to be, they don't want to fall out of music, because once you fall out, it's kind of hard to get back in.
Right.
And so it makes a difference if you're a violinist and you're in his class or a trombonist in Bill's class. It makes a big difference. So it's been really good.
Go ahead.
I just had a couple practical questions. We have enough ukuleles for a class full of students?
That's actually something we'll be looking into purchase.
It's on the last page.
Okay.
And that's another awesome thing about using this as a classroom instrument is they're extremely cost effective. You know, I've been playing for a couple of years, and you know, my nice instrument that I play is about $70. You know, it's not like a violin that costs you many thousands. So providing a classroom of these instruments will cost about $2,700 for a class size of 35.
And you think you can help all these kids get those tuned?
Oh, I've actually I taught a classroom ukulele class in my last school where I taught, and when they arrived over the summer, I tuned 37 ukuleles, and I basically tuned ukuleles for 2 days straight because the string stretched at the beginning. So by the time you got to number 37, one was already out of tune, and after you do that for like 48 hours continuously, they actually hang on pretty well after that.
I thought you were going to say I started with 40 ukuleles.
yeah. So.
All right. Well, great for you. We really appreciate it.
I do have one question. I'm looking at the syllabus and I see that each week ends with a performance. And so I'm wondering, is that for all students? And is this, am I interpreting this correctly, that this is a performance-oriented curriculum?
Oh, well, no, actually. I would say that performance is a small part of what we do. And I actually, believe that should be true of all of our music classes, even advanced level of things, that for education that should be a part of what we're going for. So what you're seeing is the Fun Friday performances. And Fun Friday is a great thing that we do in all of our music classes already, and so I would export that to this new class where students have an opportunity to perform something for their classmates. So a lot of times they'll be working on something from outside. So right now you probably would guess that we're hearing a lot of music from Star Wars, right? So right now on Fun Fridays, Star Wars, and then the next week somebody else stands up and plays Star Wars, and then a lot of times I play something for the students as well, because it's just a fun opportunity that we do at the beginning of class on Fridays. And as far as the last week of performances, we would the last week would be a performance-oriented thing to make sure that we are giving the students the experience of preparing especially something for an actual public performance. And by public, I mean I envisioned our tutorial enrichment of being able to do a concert for that during that time for the school, which we've done with the other groups on campus, which is awesome because the students performing for their peers, that's like one of the most motivating performances they can have.
So they're not going to be required to perform on Friday?
Not on Friday, absolutely not. But they will have to do that final one. But that'll be a full group thing. Yeah.
Like a final exam.
Like a final exam, yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. On the differentiation issue, you wrote that the 8th graders would have already mastered certain techniques. So that suggested to me that an 8th grader might have taken it as a 7th grader and then just take the same class again?
Yes, this is something that does happen with the wheel. So all of the wheel classes have to learn how to be effective with students that have taken the class and still provide something for them. And so it lends itself really naturally to music in that. And then also you can have the situation that this is a very popular instrument right now. So you can have students entering as 7th graders that actually have quite a bit of experience. Maybe they have more than the 12 weeks already. So I think I listed 5 strategies to differentiate with those. So responsibilities within the classroom as far as tuning instruments, leading warm-ups. You can give them expanded, more difficult literature. You can have them learning extended techniques such as finger picking. We can give them other instruments such as I could work on them with guitar, where guitars are slightly more complex. Or I could have them working on piano, or I could even give them baritone ukuleles where they're working on a different like angle of the same instrument that we're working on. And so there's different register. They'd be playing kind of like the bass section of the ukulele orchestra.
One last thing, did you write the song that you played?
No, I didn't actually. This is a tradition by the Ojai Community Band that they play to start every single concert of theirs. And I got to play with them this summer, and when I heard it, I asked Laura Denny if she would send me the music. And so our orchestra got to play it for our Ojai Day performance, and I wrote up the chords for ukulele so I could play along with it, and it's a lot of fun. I have plans for a barbershop quartet arrangement coming up.
I know you wrote the Matilaha song though, right?
The words, not the music.
Okay.
The music is roughly 400 or so years old. Yeah. And before I want to make sure that I let you guys know about one really exciting thing that's happening with the music department. Is tomorrow, or on Thursday, that we're going to take 70 students from the Matilaha Junior High School music department to go see the Los Angeles Philharmonic. It's pretty incredible the opportunities that we have in Southern California. So there's this program where they offer free admission to this concert for students, and so they're going to see Gustav Holst's The Planets, the suite, and it's free tickets, and we just had to be able to get the students there, and Dr. Bangser expressed his support to help us in that endeavor, and so did the Ojai Education Foundation and Rotary West, and a couple private donors, and everybody's kind of come together, and we've made it happen. We're able to get the students there for just a minimal cost for the students, and we're going to make sure that, and we get to take advantage of that wonderful opportunity.
And I'm so supportive of it that I volunteered to support all. And my wife.
Do we have a motion to approve the new music program at Matilda?
I'll move to approve it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Well done.
All right, so now we're moving to 7.3.2. We're going to have insights into our elementary school mathematics program and single plans for student achievements for our elementary school. So Marilyn,
Okay,
we know you're going
I'm
to
not going to play any instrument, that's for sure. No song, no music. This evening, I really want to give you context for the single plan for student achievement, which we call the SIPSA. Tonight, the board will be asked to approve the SIPSA, and Ed Code does require all schools that are funded federally and with state dollars that each school has to have a school site council that develops the SIPSA, approves the plan, sends it to the board, recommends it for approval to the board, monitors its implementation, and then checks its effectiveness at least once annually. So the school site council has a large part in developing the SIPSA. It's really a blueprint to improve the academic performance of students. That's really what the SIPSA is. So with that context in mind, and as part of our effort, our ongoing effort to make board meetings a real learning experience, like we learned about the ukulele. So just think back for a few minutes. In October, Jackie and I presented data for the CASP results, district data for the CASP results. And then in November, we learned from the K-6 team student assessment data for grades 3 through 6. Then December, Bill and Javier, is Bill still here? No. Bill and Javier touched again on data, but then they really talked about Matilaha's new initiatives. And then last month, in January, Greg and Kim and Dave, they shared what they learned about spring testing. And then remember, Greg asked you all, what were your expectations for spring testing? So we kind of learned about each other's expectations. But we also really learned about the connection between our goals, which are in the SIPSA, and data. There's a real close connection. So yesterday, you all received a nice big stack of student materials. This is the 4th grade. I think Michael got the kindergarten.
Just at my level.
Yeah. And then it goes right up to Kevin, who had 5th grade. That's really called the anticipatory set. According to Madeline Hunter, who developed clinical instruction, the anticipatory set is where it really focuses the student, you all, focus the student's attention. So that's what those books were intended to do, is be the anticipatory set for tonight. Also, it's a collaborative effort tonight with the SIPSA, and I want you to ask questions as we move along, and stop, ask questions. We don't have to wait till the very end. So tonight we're going to focus on the SIPSA as a blueprint by focusing on one major initiative that's really common to all 5 sites, and that is the implementation of Common Core mathematics. So I'd like to introduce first Teresa. Teresa's just going to give a brief overview of the shifts of Common Core mathematics.
Good evening, and I would like to share with you just some of the differences between the old standards that we have and now understanding what Common Core is like with regards to the shifts in mathematics. And just to give a brief overview, there are like 3 major areas in which you can see the shift. The first one is that there's a greater focus on topics. Instead of having, this race to cover all this curriculum, I remember teaching 6th grade at Miners Oaks, and I felt like there was such pressure to get through the book. Get through the book as fast as you can. It's like there was a race among all the teachers to make sure that we covered the book, and there were children that's kind of left in the dust who didn't grasp those. So with Common Core standards, they really allow us to focus in on fewer topics and to help gain those strong foundational skills and a solid understanding of concepts, a higher degree of procedural skills, fluency, and the ability to apply math. So that is one of the shifts, and in addition to that, there's coherence in linking the topics together and thinking across the grades. So what I've seen is there's better articulation with the fewer topics that are introduced, and then the links they just kind of overlap from grade to grade. And that helps with students' understanding, and there's that familiarity as they go through the next grade and see that it's just extended a little bit. They just kind of dive deeper, but there's not all these additional topics to have it kind of watered down. Then last of all, there's rigor. And that's helping the kids gain an authentic command of mathematics. And it doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, with losing some of the key elements that we had in our previous standards. We want to prepare kids for moving on in life as well as higher education. And so with regards to rigor, there's conceptual understanding and really allowing the kids to understand just the overall concepts at a deeper level, as well as procedural skills and fluency. This does call for some memorization, but not of the rote standard like we had before, like the drill and kill type of thing. And last of all, the shifts also focus in on application, just applying those math experiences. So you'll be able to see tonight how these shifts play out in some of our presentations with our young students in the Valley. And right now I'd like to invite Catherine White to lead us on to next.
Well, this evening you have the pleasure of experiencing a math game that our kindergarten students are going to teach all of you how to play. But before they do, I would like to introduce our two math teachers, our two kindergarten teachers that teach math, Miramonte June Sears and Lindsay Moore. And they're going to come up and they're going to direct the kids as to what they want them to do. And you're going to really enjoy this because kindergarten is amazing. On top of what Teresa shared as far as the shifts in Common Core, what I see most at the kindergarten level is a lot more articulation between students. There's a lot of turn and tell your partner, making sure that they're listening to their partner. What did your partner say? Just lots more of that. It's evident that this program, at least at the kindergarten level, was piloted in kindergarten classrooms. The actual lessons are about 15 to 20 minutes, which is about their attention span. And then they go on, there's 6 workplace tubs that are tubs like this with either a game or activity that they play with one or more students. So very kid-oriented, very developmentally appropriate, but strongly centered on the mathematics that kids need at the kindergarten level. And she has something to share that I think as both a teacher and parent that's important to hear.
I do. I have a daughter coming into kindergarten next year, and then my son is also here who's in 2nd grade. And with his homework coming home and the math games coming home, they're very similar to the kindergarten games, just at a 2nd grade level. So I was teaching a game in my kindergarten class, and it was a workplace that I'm not sure, maybe worked on for 2 or 3 weeks. And his homework came back and it had the same game board, just different pieces using bigger numbers. And so it's nice that it's flowing through the grade levels, and I'm not sure about anything above 2nd grade at this point, but it's nice to see the connections made so they're getting a base in kindergarten and moving forward with it.
So we asked, and we thank the parents, we asked some of our kindergarten students to come to teach you a workplace game. It's called Boxes and Dens. And so each one of them will come up and share a little bit. Now, boys and girls, you might not get to finish the whole game, but they're going to teach you how to play so you'll get a feel for. In this game, not only is it mathematics, teaching addition, but it's also, can you win graciously? Can you lose graciously? If there's a problem in the game, can you work it out? And that is so important at kindergarten and as adults too. But very important at kindergarten to start there and really work on that a lot.
So I'm going to ask my three, Vincent Besocian and Kenzie Hayes and Campbell Branstrom, to come up over here. And then just wait here a minute, so Miss Moore's going to call her three kids.
And Isaac and Kate and Charlie.
Come on, please. All right, so remember how to teach the day? Okay, you come with me, Vincent. Yeah. Vincent's going to teach you, those are the pieces, and he knows how to teach the reason. He's never played these games, so you remember how to teach the game? All right, Campbell.
Choose a chair and one stand.
Here's everything you need, Campbell.
Think you need a chair?
Thank you.
Sounds like you're smarter than a kindergartner,
Whoever's teaching me gets this chair.
Let's see. You want the special chair? Okay, Kate, you volunteer.
I'm not very smart though, so you're happy.
So you get five.
There's five.
So you get them
On to the right. Okay, so your turn. Check.
Three plus five.
All right, so my turn. I'm on the six. One.
Okay, so five here. So you're in. And I'm still outside. All right. Mr. Spears, do you have a red? Do you have a red? Oh, wait, here it is. I got it. You found it. He was hiding it on me. He wanted to beat me. Okay, take one. Ready, go. What do you have to do with red? That's it, I like it. I don't know. I like it. Oh, I won already? Well, that's because I won. You were so much better than that. There you go. Sorry. I gotta get red. All right, five. You got it, right? That was like...
So I
That's what I thought. You're stuck. I don't like this game. Still no. Arrows? No.
So the first couple, I'm sure you were really good. So you just... This is a cool idea.
cool so they didn't come off. It's a great idea.
Radar on the board. You like your mouse?
I think I finally get the stars. Okay. There you go.
And these games are fun. You have games. You did a good job teaching us all my stuff.
I'm trying to catch up to this.
I couldn't get out of here.
Okay, kindergarten students, you have 1 more minute. That's just a little bitty bit of time. So let's finish it up.
What's the thing? Do I get things there or am I stuck?
What happened? All right, I got one more. See if I can catch it. Can I go? Who won? Who won? I think we're done. Who won? Yeah, I don't think we have enough time. Do we have more time? We all done? Are we done? We're done. Come on. Not farther.
Okay, it's time to be finished up. Are you finished? Okay, you want to carry that back over to our teacher?
You got 3. I got 2.
Is this the first game? Or did you start the new game?
They're ruthless. I think that our team is playing LS team this weekend in basketball.
Oh, cool. It's all shut down because they had some kind of a problem.
Okay, so that's the low bar. Now we're going.
Before you take your students, I just want to thank parents that brought their kids here tonight, and thank you students for playing those games. Were they adorable? Fifth graders wanted to come play. They wanted to join the kindergartners.
And I was just telling Marilyn that the noise we heard here was the kind of noise you would hear in a classroom, but it's all engagement. It's happy noise. They're happy to do mathematics, which is what we want. We want that good attitude with mathematics. If you noticed, this game, as simple as it may seem, depending on a child's development, if a child already knows their facts, the game still works. If a child needs to use their the game still works. If a child needs extra support, there's dots down here to count. And then as I'm walking around with this game, if you notice, one had dots and one had a number, and so I can teach how to count on. So there's so many different things you can do with what appears to be just a simple, fun game. So thank you for letting us share.
Thank you. That was fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to all the young people. And parents.
Thank you, parents. I think it's time for our next group to come up then. There you go. Thank you.
Fifth graders with us.
Okay, I think we have some.
All right. I'm gonna take this one.
I know, they're so busy over there chatting.
Are these all Topa?
All right, these are Topa students. These are mine.
Hi,
Here
Tracy.
with me, and we are going to actually have them introduce themselves in 1 second, but I just wanted to kind of talk about what I'm seeing when I walk into classrooms. A lot has already been shared today, but really when I walk in to classrooms and kids are doing math, I see very interactive things happening with both the teacher and the students, with other students, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, but most of all, what I see so often is fun, which is what you saw probably just a second ago, and I think you'll see it as we get underway with our 5th grade lesson. Seeing kids enjoy working on their math is heartwarming. You want kids to like it, enjoy it, and I appreciate what June just said, because in so many of these activities we're doing, it doesn't matter where the kid is at in their ability. The lessons, or especially the activities and the games, really lend themselves for all kids to be able to access the math curriculum no matter what level they're at. And I think Mrs. Stubbs will speak to that a little bit in a second also. I walked into, I think she gets as excited about math as I do. So she'll text me if something great is going on and send me some pictures, and I'll run up to her room, and the staff kind of knows that I like to take pictures of things, great things that are happening in the classrooms. And one day the students were working on they were in groups, and they were working on a map, and it was a trail, I think it was about 30 miles long, and they had to figure out that they had directions. So for example, there were campgrounds along the trail every 1/4 of the way, so they had to figure out where the mile markers would be for that. And they had been working for about an hour.
At least.
And Mrs. Stubbs, and they were actively working and having fun, by the way. And she had offered them a break. She had said, oh my gosh, you guys have been working for like an hour now, and we might want to take like a stretch break. And all the students said no, they didn't want a break. They wanted to keep working. They were almost done. And this was after day 2. They had already worked on it about an hour the day before. So I think that just gives you one more sort of example of how the kids are feeling about the math, and they're really enjoying it, but also getting a lot out of it, which hopefully we're going to be able to convey to you today with the lesson that Mrs. Stubbs is going to get underway. So,
yes.
Do you want to have the students introduce themselves?
I would love to.
Caroline, go easy on us.
It's not me, it's these guys. Roman, you want to start?
Okay, I'm Roman Waller. I'm Samantha Williamson.
I'm Nate Loomis.
I'm Melanie Peebles. And I'm Tate Niederheiser.
And I'm their teacher, Mrs. Stubbs. Okay, so basically my role as the teacher is really to be more of a facilitator for them. We do a lot of problems and investigations where I just pose a problem to them and they just go with it. They're the problem solvers, they're the thinkers, and we do a lot of this where they're partnered up with people, and they're just bouncing ideas off of each other and helping each other. My job is to walk around and maybe guide them. If I see them struggling a little bit, I'm asking them questions constantly, and hopefully guiding them to the goal or the objective of the lesson. So, here's your problem today. Melanie's tired of hearing about Brad and his baseballs. Yes, me too. Brad has started an online baseball company. He's doing very well. He's getting lots of orders. He's been selling 12 baseballs, and he's got a great box for that. So each of these cubic units represents 1 baseball. So he's doing great with 12. So he's got a box for 12. Your job is to figure out all the different combinations that he could box up if he has 24 baseballs that he needs to ship. So it needs to hold 24 cubic boxes, and your job is to figure out all the different dimensions that those boxes could possibly be. That's your job.
Okay.
All right?
Mrs. Tiller knows all about baseball, so I'm going to let you come over here with me. I only have 5, right? You have 5? Okay,
I'm going to give you some.
Everybody will be able to do some.
We can share.
No, we'll do it together. Good, all right. All right.
Will you come over and give everybody a box of tools? So we also use a lot of tools, even in 5th grade. We're using a lot of things that allow them to have a visual representation of what we're doing. Samantha, you want to help you? And you're going to get some paper also to record the dimensions of your boxes. And the kids will make sure that you're recording it correctly, but the idea is to first report the base. So you have your length and your width of the base, and then the height.
Started out
In case anybody needs it, there is some paper to record your dimensions. You got paper?
So we have to make as many combinations as possible.
So we start out with 12, right?
Are we recording?
You are recording.
She does.
Who does? Okay.
See how many different ways.
So,
Oh, we can just pretend like the middle part.
so let me ask you a question. So,
Separate them.
the idea then is to make sure that we put the whole thing together.
We can build the Eiffel Tower.
A lot of baseball.
One line looks like that.
Yeah.
The other one looks like that.
Box the middle.
It's like all in a box.
Not do the
So now
project.
you're gonna crunch it. How you do it, some hay. By the way, the other two were- you already know the answer. Stubs.
22, 24, 24 right here. So that's all we did.
That's one of our options. So, okay.
So you're gonna build these, right? One of those rectangular things? As many as you can. You want to put all the
We're taught whenever
Four altogether?
Like this?
1 by 24. Yep, got it. Write it up. 1 by
Let's go 2 by 2.
So let me explain.
How are you gonna record the dimensions?
Like that, baby? Okay, let me ask you a question. That actually rectangle?
It just has to be a box. Each grade level actually.
It's just like a long right? That's a rectangle. Take this out, right? I mean, that's actually a rectangle. Take it out. This one by 24. Exactly. 1 by 1. It looks like so one is 1 by 24.
Can we get a line?
This is one. This is one very long box.
Right, it looks like a lot of you have a lot of dimensions already for your boxes. So Dr. Knox is going to start recording some of your dimensions. Who has an idea for a box design that they'd like to share and tell us the dimensions? Okay, Nate, you want to show us one of your box designs?
One or both of them? Just one?
Oh, let's do one for now.
Okay.
This was done. It was done. It was done. Very long box. That's it.
Okay, so so tell me the length times the width times the height. What are the dimensions?
So 1
Okay.
by 24.
Now remember the base. So what's the base?
Oh, 1 by 1 by 24.
That's right. Okay, so that's one possible design for the box. For the big box. Who'd like to share another one? Samantha?
3 by 4 by 2.
3 by 4 by 2. Mrs. Stubbs, you want to come on?
I'm gonna borrow this.
Okay. Oh.
It's our worm.
Put over right here, for example. Roman, you want to share yours?
Very different.
12 by 2 by 1.
A 12 by 2 by 1 could be one design for the box.
Be like this.
Okay.
So it, now,
Did I do it?
a 12 by 2, that's your base though.
Oh, like that.
Oh,
Yes.
there you go.
There we go.
Okay, Tayton, you want to share yours?
Sure. 2 by
Very
2 by
good.
6.
A 2 by 2 by 6. Is there another possible design for the box?
So is it gonna be like this or like that? Like that?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to share another one, Nate?
Sure.
Okay.
A 3 by 1 by 8.
3 by 1 by 8.
Thank you. So I can balance him.
Okay, and we'll have one more. Yeah, go ahead and share yours.
2 by 4 by 3.
2 by 4 by 3.
Actually, that's not what we have. We have that one written down, but here's ours is.
Oh.
Can you make it really quick?
4 by 1 by 6.
Yeah, that's another.
So I didn't write it right then. What are the dimensions?
Oh, she did a different one because they didn't have that one made.
Okay. What's the one you have?
4 by 1 by 6.
4 by 1 by 6. Okay, perfect. So we're going to cheat a little bit for the sake of time. But really what Mrs. Stubbs would know ahead of time is that there are 16 different ways that the box could be formed, and she would let kids continue to work until they discover all of the different ways. What's interesting is what you're looking at right now is volume, although that's not really mentioned at first to the kids, it's just exploration. But the chapter, the unit title of this is Volume and Factors. And this is really important with Common Core is kids are doing activities that lend themselves to multiple different standards. You want to hand that out to people? This particular lesson leads into many different standards, which you're going to see listed on that sheet. And what you might think about from traditional math that maybe I grew up doing, when you think about factoring, you might remember those factor trees that we used to do. Well, that's still a way to do it, but you really have to know your multiplication tables really well to be able to do that. But if you look, what are all these numbers? These are all factors of that figure 24. And when you're a young kid and you're figuring these things out, you're making connections that you don't just have to know your multiplication tables to figure out factors. You might be able to use a visualization to figure it out, right? You might go back to this activity and think through all those shapes of those boxes and use that to figure out the factors of 24. And so that's just one example of how Common Core is allowing kids to make connections that are deeper, that cover all kinds of different standards, and then it becomes very real world because obviously this is something that you might have to do. You might work for some company that has to design a box to ship materials, and you might have to work in this kind of a way in college and career. So that's where we hope this all leads to for kids. So do you want to make any further comments on the connections you're seeing with kids and this kind of stuff?
No, I really am seeing it every day. And as we build skills and work on different strategies, we'll move to a new topic or a new skill, and the kids will take those previous skills and use them. Roman's actually a perfect example of someone that does that. He'll say, well, remember that thing we learned about this? Well, I used it on this and it worked. And I'm seeing them make those connections all the time on a daily basis. So I think it's really exciting.
And the really neat thing too is these are tools. What you see in front of you is not just fun, you were just having fun just now. These are tools, and so like you said, even if they have an assignment or a test or something, you might encourage them to go get your tools. They want to use their
pull
tools.
the tools out and they have them available. So those that need that visual representation or that kind of that just kinetic experience of touching it and building it, they can use that during a test, whereas before, they may not have passed that test because they just had to have it in their head, and now it's more accessible to them.
Exactly. Okay, so any questions or comments or things you noticed?
I like the process orientation of the method.
Yeah.
I think it's really exciting to see that.
Yeah.
And this was very abbreviated. There's more lead in, there's more vocabulary used. I mean, we could have done so much more. This leads into them finding the surface area of each of the boxes and talking about cost effectiveness if you were actually going to make the boxes. So I think that's why I told them we were doing Brad's baseballs, and Melanie said, "Oh no, not Brad again."
We talked about it for a while.
We kept going back to Brad and building on the lesson. And
Caroline, at what point do they either realize, or did you tell them that A equals B equals C equals D, so that the combination of the three numbers is always 24?
well, this was the first time that I've taught this, being our first year of Bridges. I didn't have to tell them that. They told each other. And that was part of the conversation that we had. After this is completely done the next day, we actually have a forum where the kids talk about what they built. We find a way to kind of document in a way that makes sense. So I led them to the fact that we actually organized it so it was all the different possibilities that were 1 layer tall, all the different possibilities that were 2 layers tall, 3 layers tall. So there's an organization to it. And the kids were the ones that started going, oh, if you multiply all those together, they're all equal to 24. And then that's what they told me we needed to do to make sure that each one actually worked. So, and that's the beauty of it. It's the kids are making the connections. The kids are pointing those things out. My job is to make sure they get there, but so far they're getting there. I'm their guide along the journey.
I have 2 questions. First, do you find that there's not enough time?
Yes.
In the day? Because that's what I seem to, it's like, look, if you have to teach the game, then you're giving them the time to do the game, and then you really don't have the chance to talk about it till the next day when some of them might have forgotten the game, or, it's just, it's something for us in
And
the
I'm
future
even
to be
going
thinking
slower
about.
than the pacing calls for. Because it is our first year using the program also, we'll encounter things where it'll say students will have had experience with this in 4th grade Bridges, or students will know how to use this tool from 3rd grade and 4th grade Bridges. Well, these guys don't know how to use it. So I always tell them, we're hitting the pause button today. And, I'll bring something else in that I think that'll kind of deepen their understanding or help the process make more sense.
And I think that's something in the future, really, when we adopt a program, it really probably would have been better to adopt it and put it in the way they're doing the CMP, or the Math 1, Math 2, Math 3 in the high school, so that these kids coming up, they're learning it in 1st grade and adding to it in 2nd and 3rd, because this year's 5th graders, I would think, it would be the most difficult, because
Well, to hear Lindsay say her 2nd grader is doing workplaces that are very similar to what they're doing in kindergarten, I mean, I would love for that to have happened to these guys as 5th graders, to have this continuity all the way through. They're missing that piece. So hopefully, if we stick with it, we'll start to see the effect of that, where they do have that continuity and the skills are being built on each year.
Any other questions?
I like games. I think when you can learn and play games, that's fantastic.
This isn't even one of our games. This was just one of our problems and investigations. We also have workplaces like the kindergartners taught you. So we have several workplace games that we're doing now, that we're doing tomorrow. I mean, almost our entire hour tomorrow is all games.
Well, to me, it's a game.
Can you talk about number sense corner or number corner or something?
So this is the main Bridges component. There is a second component to it called Number Corner, which is kind of an entirely separate piece, but it does go hand in hand. So I was just reviewing today some of the things we're doing for February, and one of the concepts that we're going to be hitting in February in Number Corners is something that I've been doing in a problem string with my kids in our normal math time. So there are definite connections, but they really are kind of 2 distinct programs. They're different times of the day. We're doing math for probably an hour and a half a day right now. So, and it's a lot of preparation.
So the number sense, do they do with you, or is that just something?
It's all with me.
It's what?
All with me. And the Number of Corners has 6 different components just in itself, so each day you're supposed to be hitting a different component of the number corner.
But
we have a big calendar grid, we have a calendar collector, we have problem strings, we have computational fluency, so it's a lot. And I think right now, some teachers are doing, number corners as much as they can fit it in while they're still using this program. I think this year we're all really trying to understand the program, learn the program, and
figure out the balance.
Exactly. It's been a challenge.
Do we have a sense, either from an interim assessment, excuse me, around this time or ultimately in April, the relationship between this first year of Bridges, right? As Caroline said, we're all learning, and Jane makes a good point, but at this point, we're doing it all, every grade. How does this work relate, do we think, to a smarter, balanced assessment of the
We might know soon because
You did it earlier.
in February, we're going to be doing interim
You did it,
assessments.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So is that what you feel we are going to learn from interim?
I think that I think data is always very telling, so we can look at some of the data from last year and then compare it to the data in the interim. I personally like to see data over a few years. I think it's hard to completely gauge something in 6 months, but I think it will be informative. I think it will tell our teachers where our kids are at, and that's the hope of doing an interim assessment, is then hopefully try to re-hit any concepts that we might need to prior to the testing in the spring and May.
I have one more question. It's kind of an expansive question and a specific question, and it may be too hard to answer, but what are we not learning that we used to be learning? Because, right, this is, Teresa, you said we were focusing on fewer topics. I'm wondering what topics we're leaving.
Yeah, I don't know that we can answer that quickly and easily. Obviously, at each grade level, it would be different.
No, and to be honest, I mean, I haven't fully even had a chance to look through the rest of the program.
Yeah.
I mean, I know exactly what we've done so far. I know what my next unit is.
We might be able to gather that data for you and give it to you at a later date, but, well, I think, I'm sure there's literature on what they dropped. I don't know off the top of my head.
And there are things like for 5th grade where we might be just introducing it this year, whereas in past years we were supposed to master it.
Right.
And we're not expected to master it now, we're just supposed to introduce it and have the kids become familiar with it. Like dividing fractions, things like that.
Another example of some big stuff is we had some movement with time and money, and I can't tell you exactly where they ended up, but those are really meaty in themselves, and so they moved it out of a grade level.
Sure.
I just asked June if she noticed anything.
Well, I know time and money, with the old California standards, the state standards, time was introduced to the hour and a half hour in kindergarten, but time is such a hard concept for kindergartners. With Common Core, that totally got dropped.
Yeah.
And then,
I see time in 1st grade.
yes, it got moved to first. And then a little change was counting to 100 orally. Now is by ones and tens. It used to be ones, fives, and tens. The counting by fives got moved up to 1st grade. We used to have to be able to read, write, and recognize numbers to 30. That moved down to 20. So just subtle, same standards, but just subtle.
So it sounds like things are moving up grade levels, so probably 6th grade is where we're going to find that there may be things that we used to do.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm sorry, they're on their way to a championship basketball game.
Yes, I had to get it out. Time expectations, so sorry about that.
Guys.
Thank you so much for our students.
Football and basket. It's simple.
I'll do it loudly so everyone can hear.
Okay.
I want to ask Cheryl, what is the context in which we do the interim assessment? Is that something that's not something that's required, but something that we're doing because we want to?
Yes. Most all districts try to do some sort of interim assessments. Sometimes districts have in-house assessments that they've created. Last year we had a database that we purchased that we could make our own in-house assessments, and it was sort of optional for teachers. But almost always, at least in my experience in teaching, some sort of, usually twice in the year prior to the big test, we would do some sort of dipstick of how are our kids doing and use the results and talk as teachers and administrators to kind of guide the future instruction.
And what are we using for that?
So this year we're very lucky, and we've kind of been waiting for it, is the Smarter Balanced has actually created interim assessments that we can use. So it's going to be the exact same system that our kids are going to use in May, so they get to practice it.
I believe we talked about that with Marilyn.
Interim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the night we talked about it, one of the learning experiences, I don't remember which one.
And we did, at Miramonte, our teachers did use pieces of it last year, and it does very closely align to what we did end up seeing on the summative assessment. So that was good.
So I think Dawn's gonna come up and kind of close up our math conversation.
Yeah.
How do you follow that?
No, I know. I kept telling him, I don't want to get up next. I have no ukulele, no
kindergartner,
no cutie patooties with me. It's just me, and I apologize.
All right. So in the single plan for student achievement, you've seen the data from each of our sites, and we all know that data informs and drives instruction. And tonight, you've sat in the front row, you've literally sat in the front seat of seeing instruction up close and personal. We invite you to visit our sites to see more student learning like you've experienced this evening. If you visit, you may notice that each of our schools have some unique qualities and initiatives that we'd like to highlight. So at Miners Oaks, I would like to highlight and let you know how much we love our Read Aloud and Proud program. Students are identified by their classroom teachers as needing practice reading and developing stronger skills for reading. They receive individual attention for approximately 25 minutes, 2 times a week. The adult volunteer will read to the student, and the student then hears proficient reading skills. The student then gets to read to the adult, and they follow it up with rich conversation. Each of our participating students grows a relationship with the adult volunteer, since one priority of our program is to keep each adult with the same student as long as possible. We have retired people, we have a lot of retired teachers that actually come and volunteer in our program. At this point of the year, we've got 20 third grade students, and we have 2 fourth grade students that are participating in the program. That may change. Some may graduate out, and then we'll start picking up some second grade students to start working with them. Right now we have 18 adult volunteers. Our kindergarten teacher, Martha Lapine, has been the lead and involved in this program. And then I call our other lady, our volunteer sergeant, Carol Salzman, and she's recruited this wonderful army of volunteers. We're seeing growth in oral reading fluency because of this valuable program. Based on assessments, one of our third graders started reading at a second grade level in mid-September, and by the end of January has shown 1 year and 7 months growth. Another student in the program has grown 1 year and 2 months in reading skills in the same amount of time. So we are very pleased with the results of our program, Read Aloud and Proud. Now, Cheryl Knox will highlight a program in Tulpa.
So usually we like to celebrate some of the new things that are happening at our sites, and I think Bridges is the biggest new thing that we're all celebrating, which is why we wanted to do that together today. But 2 things on my site are sort of new as well. We used a lot of our supplemental money on our site to hire additional staff, certificated staff, to alleviate some of our grade levels that were very impacted. So I just want to say that we are so happy to have Daisy Carlson, who's a teacher working in 2nd grade, Amber Stogo, who's a teacher working in 4th grade, and then sort of a combination, Kirsty Moore and Nancy Raleigh, working in mostly 6th grade, alleviating our 5-6 combo. And it just makes such an impact on the campus to have those 3 basically teaching positions that come in the morning and help in those grade levels for, like I said, class size reduction during English, language arts, and mathematics. So we're lucky to have it, and I know that our teachers appreciate it. In addition, some of that money was spent to offer, to have Mrs. Carlson teach PE in the afternoon, and that has allowed our teachers to have 2 days a week where they have preparation time, and I know that our teachers greatly appreciate that. So we are just very happy about that this year. And the other thing is, on site, we have a lot of new technology and a lot of online learning, which has created a lot of opportunities. I would say it kind of started over summer when we were able to use some Title III money to purchase Chromebooks for our English language learners, and our teachers really fell in love with the program that they were using. The English language arts program was called Lexia, and it's really good. The kids get on the program, it's very engaging for the kids, and they really do progress through skills. But also we have Brenda Hill on site, who is, I don't know if you guys know Brenda, but she's amazing, and she's always researching and looking at new things, and she's always bringing things to us. We started Moby Max last year because she found it, again, an online program. She also shared with us this year a program called Wowzers, which is a math program. So we were able to spend even more money this year to buy 2 Chromebooks for every single classroom, as well as Lexia licenses for some students, and then Wowzers school-wide. And that's really what we've been able to do in classrooms is have little corners, little pockets, where we have Chromebooks for English language learners and also Chromebooks for all students to use, where kids can cycle through and really get on these programs. And it works for intervention purposes. It works for just enrichment at grade level, just more practice, and then it really works also for kids who are excelling, because these programs gear themselves to all kids. So unfortunately what we learned though is most of these programs require 20 minutes a day or so, really consistently if you expect kids to grow. So getting more devices on site is really what we need in order to get more kids to be able to access that. And it is hard to fit that in when you look at how much time is being spent on math or language arts, like we just shared. So in the times when we do have more of those, maybe centers or things where kids can get on those sorts of things, we need to have more devices so kids can access those great online programs. And I do want to say we did start an intervention committee last year. Tracy Oakland, Amy Boujol, Karen Digman, Alex Mejia, Jennifer Hankins, Caroline Stubbs, who was just here, and then Susan Dvorak, and they have been a stellar team of teachers. We've met probably 4 times over the last year, and they've been sort of the guiding team to decide what kind of programs we want to bring on, how do we want to engage kids. And as much as we would love to do interventions that are one-on-one and that sort of thing, you don't get as much bang for your buck. So I think we have a nice mixture this year of both our PI program, which is much more human resources, if you will, working with kids in small groups, but also this technology piece this year, which allows us to be able to really get more kids to access differentiated curriculum over the course of the year. So we're excited about those things on site. And now I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, who's going to share some things on her site.
And before she starts, I just got a text that we're not on TV. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it.
Oh. Kids all want to watch that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be on soon.
All right. Okay, so last week, a team of Miramani teachers participated in an interviewing process to replace our 5th grade hourly teacher who had taken a position at Nordhoff. I'd like to share a question one of our teachers asked each applicant. Miramani teachers have their foot full throttle on the technology gas pedal. You have a set of Chromebooks. How will you use them, and what technology training have you had? Which is a great question. Since all of them were recent university graduates well versed in the use of technology, all their answers were of course excellent and fit perfectly with our technology mission, just to assure that learners can adapt to the challenges of the 21st century through the access and utilization of technology in gathering, using, and communicating information in order to make responsible decisions as global citizens. So, for the last 5 years, our PTO and staff priority has been to maintain, purchase, and integrate technology to the best of our ability. This has meant sacrificing expenditures in other areas. Currently, students in grades 3 through 6 have one-to-one devices, and approximately 40% of these devices are personally owned by students. We, back in October, November, surveyed parents and said, would you be interested in buying a Chromebook if we could get you a good deal and we could do a big purchase? And the feedback was excellent, so we went ahead and went forward with that. Happened to be, it was right before the holidays, so for a lot of kids, they got Chromebooks for Christmas, which was perfect. So, of course, before we implemented the one-to-one devices, we had to have some additional staff training. Miramani School was well represented during 2 of our district technology training opportunities that were jointly funded by the Ojai Education Foundation. The first of training was a 2-day Google Summit in Bakersfield that was offered in September, and of the 9 participants, 4 of them were Miramani staff members. Our Director of Technology, David Rogers, was with us, which was excellent to have him there at the time and to be able to answer all those questions about what can we do, what can't we do, and of course David loves all these new innovations we're coming up with. The second training was a 5-week technology cohort that consisted of class participation and homework. The cohort was facilitated by 3 Ventura Unified School District teachers on special assignment. 6 of the 11 participants were Miramani staff members. We're currently making plans with one of the two. They have two Ventura Unified School District technology teachers on special assignment, which are great resources for our school district. And they're coming up to provide some smartboard training that will be open to all of our elementary school teachers. In addition to the many ways our classroom teachers are using technology, our English language development class and our intervention classes are also using the technology for math and language arts. I don't think at this point, I think that all the kids are using the technology-based program, the internet-based programs for the intervention programs. On February 26th, the teachers in grades 3 through 6 are inviting parents and community members into their classrooms in order to showcase some of the ways that they are currently using their technology. And our third graders are currently having a contest in their classroom to put together the flyer. So they're using Google Draw, they're using all the different Google programs that they've learned, so they're putting together the flyer. And as soon as we have a contest winner, we will make copies, and of course we will distribute it to all of you. So hope you'll be able to attend. So, any questions?
Smart boards.
Smart boards,
How many do we
Promethean
have?
boards.
How many, do we have them all over the place or just?
I can't tell you what the total is right now. I know we have them throughout the district in different capacities, yes. So our teachers, that'll be great though to have somebody from Ventura come out. We have a lot of new teachers that have some knowledge of them and some older teachers that had training, but they need refresher courses on how to use the smart board.
How many of your classrooms have them?
We have 15 smart boards.
And how did you get them?
A combination of site money, PTO, that was a priority. It has been, for about the last 5 years, we've been working really hard with our PTO funds, and that's definitely been a focus for a big chunk. We've given up other things in order to have that technology, which has been really nice.
So the district doesn't buy those at all?
We know the district, and I don't know how much the district was involved in the OEF purchase of what we
No, not
have
really.
for technology.
Kevin, and, well, in this room Thursday morning, all the principals, Marilyn, David, Andy will be joining me to have the conversation about the extent to which OEF would want to participate in the upcoming years to start evening out some of the access that you're hearing about tonight, which is uneven for reasons that Catherine has explained. We also, this year for the first time, actually put in a $50,000 line item in the budget for technology, which doesn't mean just elementary. But in many cases, we've learned that it means replacing old equipment, which is now 5 years old, right? So it doesn't have a big impact on gaining, going down the road toward the kind of technology infusion that we want. But OEF is interested, but they're also interested in music, and they're also interested in 3 or 4 other things.
And we really appreciated the projector replacement that those funds are able to cover for us.
I mean, I would say you probably need somewhere district-wide, you would need between $100,000 and $200,000 a year to do a good job of not only replacing equipment that's outdated, but also moving toward a path that some districts have already achieved. I mean, that's not good news because it's money we probably don't have to spend. But if I look back where we were 4 years ago compared to where we are now, light years better. Light years better.
Any other questions, Catherine? All right.
Oh, Teresa.
Hello, so San Antonio and Summit School, two little schools. What I want to do is just give you a brief notification about my desire to improve communication. And one of the ways that we're doing that is with the Remind communication tool. It's basically like a group text message. And teachers can use it one way with their students or have it be collaborative. Although I think most teachers prefer that it's just one way so they can give out information to their students and not be flooded with a bunch of text messages that can come in after hours, etc. But for me, I was really excited to get this tool. It's called Remind, and be able to send out to the parent populations a quick reminder of a special event or a minimum day that sometimes parents forget, oh, Wednesday's early dismissal. So it's been really effective to just send out a quick blast. And then another communication aspect that I was pretty excited about ties in with the performing arts efforts with OEF, and that is alongside the building at San Antonio that faces the playground. We took out some shrubbery and put in some decomposed granite, and it's going to be our celebration station. We came up with that name because the goal is on Fridays to have a podium and a microphone for students to be able to practice public speaking, either reading aloud a poem that they wrote or just practicing their language arts story that they're reading, or singing a song. It's going to be semi-structured in that the kids won't be able to get up and just grab the mic and blare into the mic, but it can be pretty much whatever they want to do. And it's a very loosely structured audience because it will be during our lunch recess, but it'll still give the kids a chance to get up to the microphone and feel special, as well as practice reading or some of their special things that they want to show. So those are the two things that I really want to share with you because they're fun and it's one of those things that makes the schools special. And the other things that are going on in the district are so exciting. I enjoy these meetings as much because I get to hear a little bit more in depth some of the things that are going on at the other elementaries, and it's always inspiring. It's a good team. So do you have any questions?
I have a question. I mean, I guess it's sort of for y'all. The reading initiative over at Miners Oaks sounds great. It sounds like that would be great to be doing everywhere in our elementary district. Do you guys all have some version of that?
I think we all have volunteers.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman from, I don't remember his name, from Rotary. What is his name?
Charlie Thompson has been.
Charlie used to do it, but who's the guy that's doing it? Randy Roth.
Randy took over, that's right.
Who has been recruiting people, and so he's probably come to all of us at this point with a list of people that would potentially come help.
Yeah.
And it's been real fun calling each one of them because some of them are very. You, Brenda,
I've been
and Brenda Knight, who's retired
two weeks
junior high
ago.
school.
She's running my science station.
She just came in today and said she is so happy to be there.
Awesome.
But there's a couple that are in retirement homes around here that I've called to schedule times and teachers, and boy, it's just chatty. We've spent a long time on the phone and they're trying to figure out the logistics of how to get to the school, and I'm not sure they'll give me a ride down there Tuesday morning on such and it's just been really fun. Just even that connection in itself is beautiful.
Yeah.
So
I have to agree, it's been very sweet. I would say my only, I just wish I could get so many more. I think Randy hooked me up with about 4, and then I have about 4 parents, but I've had it in my newsletter. We call it Rolling Readers.
Yep.
I've had it in my newsletter for since the beginning of the year, and I've only been able to get about 3 or 4 additional parents. And I would love 50. I mean, it would be great to have people coming and reading one-on-one with kids. I think it would make a huge difference. Like you were saying, the grade levels they're jumping just by reading individually with an adult. It makes a huge impact. Yeah. Huge.
Well, you see in the test scores to the ELL is so in need, it looks like.
Absolutely.
I think one of the aspects that intrigues me too is it's not just one way where the elementaries are receiving and the kids are getting this one-on-one attention. It also helps the community understand more about what's happening in the school system and building those connections. So when we try and pass Measure J, there's more connections and different things like that. So that and those retirees, it's statistically proven that if they have links and they have a regular schedule of something, they do better. So I'm trying to keep them healthy too.
That's your committee thing.
Do they do this during school or after school?
Both.
Okay, so high school kids could do it too.
Oh, yes. If they're not under the direct supervision of a certificated teacher, they, well, we have to make arrangements to make sure everybody's fingerprinted if they're alone with students.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's important also, Linda, I had a rolling reader many years ago, and they bring into the classroom some very rich history. So I felt like they added to the woman who came into my class had left Cuba, and hadn't been back, and she brought so much history into our class, because I used to say, okay, put your hands in the air, and she was like, you are not ever going to say that again.
and then proceeded to explain to us why you don't save. Everybody put your hands in the air, and told us all about her experiences. And so, you know, all these retired people have so much to bring into the classroom. I just feel like it's important to get them there.
All right, that's fabulous.
I can tell you on the other end, talking about Rotary, I cannot remember one lunch meeting where I was able to get to the end of the lunch line without somebody, or more than one person, coming up and telling me how much, mostly he's, but some she's, enjoyed being a reader. So that's why, I mean, and they call for readers all the time. I forgot it went to Randy, but Charlie Thompson was
Charlie did it for years.
well into his 80s.
Yeah.
You know, he's so smart. He's a very good ambassador.
So that does conclude, are there any other questions though?
No, I just, we're sort of focusing on the single plans for student achievement here of the 5 elementary schools. Do any of you have specific questions for any of the principals about any of the single plans?
I just have a comment that I love this way of getting the single plan presentations
Absolutely.
done.
This is
yeah. I mean, we're actually learning the interesting and new things that you're doing. We're getting more insight into what's happening, and we're not just going over the same stuff just to go over it. So
I'm so glad
love
because
it.
I tell you,
Yeah.
you know, we have the legal obligation to present the plans and make sure they're tidy and all that. But to really be able to bring the joy of what we do day in and day out at the elementary level especially is really satisfying, because it seemed like in years gone by it was very stale and rote, and now we can bring you the energy, and I'm glad you like it.
Not that we didn't always like.
Yeah, we saw your eyes rolling in back here.
But this is just so much better.
Yeah, it's a learning experience.
Well, and I would actually like to add to that is not only in the learning, but in the sharing, that you start to see what more we could do. I mean, where our possibilities are, which I think is, Angie was talking about, and hopefully we'll be talking about next month, is what could we do to improve even more? Like, does the day need to become longer somehow? You know, and what does that mean? How does that reflect, and how could we do that? And just, you know, filling in those gaps that maybe families can't fill in, that we need them to, we need to provide a way for that to happen, because obviously, and each site, you know, has something that's so interesting that it's like, let's put it all in the pot. And so that's.
And also, it just shows how important it is that we've got our furlough days back. I mean, I can't imagine doing these math programs without, you know, with the shortened school year. It just doesn't seem like it would even be remotely possible. So you guys work so hard. I mean, we know that, and we just thank you so much for, you know, for all of your hard work on behalf of our students. It's amazing what you do.
You're a good team.
Yeah, I mean, I echo Jane's, you know, thoughts about the expanding the school day. I mean, I mean, even to the extent we could find a way to get Wednesday back to a normal day would be nice. It's, it seems very important, very, very important to have the ability to have lots of interactions with kids, with people who know what they're doing and who are focused on getting them to focus on something during the day. And the longer we can do that, it seems like the outcomes will be better.
Any other questions or comments? So we're going to take all 5 single school plans together. Do I have a motion to approve them?
Happily move to approve. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you very, very much. Oh my gosh.
I'll collect the books.
Oh, I know, you were studying that kindergarten set. Oh, my goodness. Thank you,
So now we go on to item 7.3.3, a resolution in recognition of African American History Month. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So this is, February is African American History Month. So moving on to our Board of Educators and Superintendent section, update on our district committees. So this is information, and we're going to talk about some of the various committees that we have. So first of all, I guess we could talk about the volunteer committee, since we just had our meeting yesterday. Andy, would you like to talk about that? You're kind of the guy in charge there, and
sure,
we appreciate that very much.
Absolutely. So we had our first meeting yesterday. We have representation from both CSEA and OFT on the committee. We have site administration at the elementary and secondary level. We have 2 board members and Josh, myself, sitting on the committee. We really, the purpose of this committee is knowing, and we were hearing a little bit about it earlier with how positive an experience it is for both the community as well as for our students to have these sorts of in-classroom reading programs. But we know that our district has great need both across the board in many areas. And we also know that we have a community that really supports education, supports this district, has incredible wealth of experience as well as may have financial means as well to be able to help partner with the district. So I think one of the great things that came out of the meeting yesterday was the need that really this committee is going to be focusing on identifying projects and potentially partners in those projects, coordinating properly those projects. We also talked about how at times in the past we've had projects that, while well-intentioned, they have not been executed in the full manner that we would like, and so it's going to really involve proper coordination with our district staff, with site staff, and making sure that we have the communication going across the board, both with the individuals or groups that we may partner with at the school site level, and again across the entire district. So the exciting charge that we have is really those 3 things: identify, coordinate, and communicate. The next steps are we're actually going to be reaching out to each of the sites requesting 3 categories of projects that they would actually be interested in having us support. So, as an umbrella, we know that there's facility needs, so facility-related projects, grounds projects. We know that in the classroom, there's some great opportunities, again, like the reading program that we can have in the classroom, and then potentially more financially related projects, ones where it would be predominantly providing fiscal support. So the 3 areas that we're asking site administrators to assist with is some one-time projects, both ones that maybe 1 or 2 people could tackle versus one that might require a full service organization, faith-based organization, or other community group to partner with us in. And then also looking at ongoing or long-term opportunities. So that's our next step, is really compiling that list, and then we're going to be moving on from there to try to help reach out to partners, reach out to individuals who may be interested in being able to help support us in those ways.
Great.
Yeah, and Josh Koenig Brown brought in the 2 of the forms that we have. I guess Chuck had helped organize these. This one is sort of an approval thing, is sort of a proposal for projects, and then there's volunteer information form, which are on our website. So I think it's really important to know that we do have those already in place and that we can use those. And there's so many things that we need. We need a sponsor for a tractor. So if anybody wants to do that, I'm just sort of giving a shout out on that one. All right, so thank you.
If I could just add,
Sure.
I thought it was a great meeting with everybody involved, and to hear everybody's perspective. Just in light of tonight, and I don't want to turn this into a continuation of the committee meeting, I think it might be great if we were to capture what we're already doing. We've heard a lot of that, and maybe as part of that thing, what do the sites want to do, and then also what are they already doing?
Sure.
So that we can get our hands around that.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, Andy did a great job.
Very good.
Yeah, so organized. Okay, so we have Measure J committee.
Well, Kevin, you're
So
the stage.
we have this subcommittee, as you know, that is focused on how we are going to begin spending the Measure J money, and I'm on that committee with Mike Shanahan, with whom you may be familiar, and Hank and Andy and Chuck Crawford, and representative of Balfour Beatty, as well as Jeff Palmer, who's also the chairperson, I believe, of the Citizens Oversight Committee, and Dave Intner, who's a local architect, also on the Citizens Oversight Committee, and actually has a lot of expertise in green building, green facilities, and he actually works at SoCal Edison, kind of in their green division. So it's been great, and I got to say, I think we all agree it's been particularly helpful, having Jeff and Dave there, and Jeff in particular is just great. Just has a lot of sort of excellent insights into things, and Chuck as well, offering sort of detailed observations. And of course, the person I left out who did a fabulous job this week was Josh Brown. So we've sort of approached it in stages, and obviously it's sort of a dream within a dream. You've got your Citizens Oversight Committee, you've got other people working on the Measure J money and how we're going to spend it, and then you've got this subcommittee sort of doing the same thing. But I think what the subcommittee has been able to do is distill the focus where it needs to be right now, which is where do you start? And Josh did a fabulous job. I told him after, I thought it was amazing, because he was able, he calls it, I think we call it triage, but basically looking at each of the facilities, identifying the specific projects that were most needed, thinking in terms of the order of things that make sense. I think everyone agreed. I think even lay people would agree that when you start with the top and go down, that's a good idea. I remember when I was in high school, one of my friends got out of my car and was helping me do the windshield, and he started at the bottom, and everyone made fun of him. He didn't understand what was wrong. Of course, the water kept dripping down over what he'd just done. So anyway, we're looking at a lot of roofs, things like that. Of course, it's a very fluid situation, because you also have the question of whether the 7-Eleven committee might be making any recommendation with respect to closing a school, and if that were to happen, certainly you wouldn't want to be spending money on a facility that's not going to be in use. I think Jeff uses the term clean projects, referring to projects that don't require DSA approval, which is the statewide, I can't think of the
Department of State Architects.
Department of State Architects, which would have to approve certain types of construction. So I guess all I could say, without just repeating everything that was said, is that we're in good hands. The right kinds of information is being sought and presented, and I know Hank made the point, and he's sort of driving this thing from the executive position, and he said he really wants to get some things done this summer, and that's his, he's going to keep pushing for that, and he will push for that, and then, the rest of the folks will be doing their jobs, and presumably will, at least this summer, do some work that's necessary and start spending the money and showing the people that have nicely given us this money that we're using it well and using it now. We don't want to have people 2 years out wonder whatever happened to that bond money.
Mike?
Well, I won't repeat what Kevin said, but what I will reflect is that I think the district is extraordinarily fortunate in the people who have stepped up to serve on these committees. I guess I will repeat what was said, that I'm just repeatedly impressed at the Oversight Committee, at the I've been watching 7-Eleven videos, and this committee, these people are very knowledgeable and amazingly dedicated to the amount of time that they're spending. And so, I think that what's nice is to see that I think strategically we're all lined up in terms of more or less where we think we need to be. I like the fact that, even though we need to worry about the 7-Eleven, there is a focus on the schools that we know we're keeping, Nordhoff and Tillaha, and so it's very pragmatic, I think, and it's, by any means, it is not a rubber stamp committee. It is they're challenging and they're creative, and I'm really pleased. I'm learning a lot.
I would just add, as the person who has the ability to ask Josh questions and not quite understand until he's done, all the nuances of the projects, this last meeting, which was the second meeting, was designed, if you just think about the concept of forced choice, okay? So the document that we've all seen, I've sent it out to you. If you add up all the projects that were in Josh's extremely well-done and comprehensive list of things we should get done that in some form were mentioned in the Balfour Beatty needs assessment, right? So the idea over about a 45-minute to hour period was to have him hone in on X number at each site. And so when you add up all the projects that Kevin and Mike talked about, they're probably about 20, give or take. So 2 to 3 to maybe 4 per site kind of thing. And the next stage, and I've seen some emails today to start moving things forward, is to have Josh push Balfour Beatty to start getting pricing on projects, and then we can stand back, and we're not going to have a meeting until we get those prices, right? Because we've done that talking about what the projects are. We learned what his priorities were that were challenged, pretty much stayed intact. So let's say they're around 20. So when we get a pricing, we're going to find out what the totality of that is. You know, is it 4 million or is it 9 million? And you know, how does that all work in terms of the kind of things we might be able to get done this summer and maybe some other breaks. So that's the next step, is to learn more about what things cost and how that could fit into the bond money that we have. You know, we've sold 10 million. The next series will probably be about 9, and that's coming up not too far from now. But we need to have a plan. I mean, you don't sell $9 million more unless you think you know how you're going to spend 19 million, right? Okay. And then, of course, we have these other big, what do they call I won't call them elephants, that's not good. These 2 big issues that are on the side over here, other than a lot of those smaller important projects, roofs, et cetera, and the 2 are the pool that we talked about in depth, and our grounds, Okay, so we have a pretty good idea what the various levels of the pool might be, depending on how aggressive we are in replacing what we have. I'm still waiting for a really good number on the grounds. It's emerging. But we do have a study upcoming that's in the works on the pool, so that an architect will step in and help us understand what that project could look like. Okay, we need some professional expertise. And it's not an extraordinary expense at all, but at some upcoming meeting, we'll look at that. So all that has to come together, and then we have also, we have this calendar relative to the pool that we have to meet in order to be in sync with what the county wants. And we had a great meeting with the inspector, and I think she's really very understanding and professional. So we're okay there, but we do have to make headway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then Jane, you were on a committee also? Yes.
Actually, we haven't met since last week.
Okay, all right.
Andy's sharing that one too.
Okay.
I just sent an email
It's on the
yesterday.
calendar.
When's the next
It's
meeting?
on the calendar.
It's a busy man.
We got to get the calendar committee on the calendar.
All right, so now moving on to 7.5.2 update on the 7-Eleven committee progress. And do you have anything else to add?
Andy's going to fill us in.
Okay.
So
Chris, you can participate.
the Ventura County Star came out with an article this morning that I think the reporter did a very fair and accurate job reporting the most recent 7-Eleven committee meeting that we had. At least it's really focusing on the last half hour or so of the committee meeting, where we focused on the actual operational cost savings from a school reduction or consolidation. One minor note that was missed in the article when it comes to those operational cost savings was that those numbers reported, which is roughly about $225,000 for a large elementary, about 100 to 190 or so for the smaller elementary. So we're looking at 100 to 225. Those really are intended to be an upward ceiling. We haven't made, obviously, staffing choices or staffing decisions at this point for the 10 different scenarios that could result from this committee, and so it was meant to give a rough idea, but obviously that's going to be heavily influenced by the final decision made on administrative support to elementary schools and some of those other positions that were identified as potential savings.
Andy, I want to ask a question, because I saw on one of our documents an addenda that was the same document,
Right.
I guess, that listed the expenses, the operational expenses. Wouldn't the occasional blown pipe, the occasional need to replace some piece of equipment, isn't that also an operational expense? And did anyone try to figure out on average how much the schools spend on that? Bringing out plumbers, third-party services, third-party repairs, all that?
Yeah, it's a great point, and that was actually identified as the lowest line on the operational section. So I'm not sure if we have any available to the public tonight, but you certainly can email me or give me a call and I can email it out. But there should be a final, other operating is that final category of other expenditures that are non-our personnel related, non-utilities. It's those other kind of contractor type projects type work.
There's copies on the back table.
Okay.
Thanks.
So yeah, so great point though. There are other expenditures that impact schools. So that was just the point on the operational cost, but I think the article really appropriately nailed the theme of that report, which is the operational cost savings are really minimal. That most of the cost associated with a school consolidation are really going to be costs that go along with the student to whatever new school site they go to. Where the greater financial benefit may come from is being able to stretch that $35 million Measure J funding a little bit further by having, potentially one less school site to fund. The potential revenue that could come from a lease or a sale. So those are really where the larger financial factors come in. I think the article also was appropriate in sharing how we've spent a number of meetings actually dealing with the non-financial components, because as the committee has said a number of times, if this was a purely financial decision, then heaven forbid, get a few accountants together and just have them crunch some numbers. That's not the purpose of the committee. And so we actually had a terrific meeting, the first meeting in January, where we had all 4 elementary school principals come and really focused on the academic impact of increased school sizes, some of the benefits as well as some of the drawbacks, some of the gains that come from having smaller, more intimate schools, as well as some of the benefits that come from having larger cohort sizes or larger class sizes at individual school sites, and being able to have additional staff development and staff collaboration that occurs in that sort of setting. So 2 great meetings this month focusing on both financial matters as well as the academic impact on students. And we also spent a good amount of time looking at the current facility conditions and really the readiness of school sites to absorb a significant increase in students if that is the direction of the committee.
Just reading through some of this single plan stuff and having visited some of the elementaries last week to look at their math program, I do think it's important that, even tonight, hearing some of the technology-based, what do some of the schools have that other schools don't? And one of the issues I discussed with Cheryl was, sort of the disparity. Thank you. Between, some of the scores, which I hate to just look at in EL and economically disadvantaged versus others, and how we might be able to help that. And one of the things she was talking about was 2 things. One was, expanding the day in some kind of capacity for those students who maybe aren't getting support at home because parents are working or parents don't understand the need for that, and whether the 7, closing a school would help or hinder that effort. And the second thing was I just threw out that idea of, a lower school campus and an upper school campus. And I understand all the positives and negatives about it. One of the things she said would be interesting for her specifically is that she really feels like we need to make sure that 2nd graders are at 3rd grade reading level at the end of that year, and that they're going to be so much more successful. And the possibility of a K-1 or a K-1-2 campus perhaps would really help increase the reading levels of those kids. So those would be things that would be important for the 7-1 committee to look at.
Any other questions for Andy? Thank you.
I got to tell you, I'm shocked that these are so-called upper limits, because I would think that we would save more money if we closed a school than this indicates.
We've already trimmed
Grounds.
everything down to the bare bones, so we've been doing that for years.
I would also add to what was already been said, is that the other things that the 7-Eleven committee is looking at is, and you hit upon it, is the possibility of reconfiguring the existing schools, not actually closing one, but maybe doing different grade configuration schemes at different schools. So the discussion has gone beyond just whether we close or don't close, but also how can things just be reorganized at grade levels and other ways as well.
Yeah.
What about how it might affect Chuck? You know, it's sort of like, well, I only have 3 guys, but if I don't have to go cut the grass at, Topa Topa anymore.
Increases efficiency, it does do that.
Right, it makes those campuses, maybe we can attend to the dripping faucet because we have less to attend to.
That's true, and there's no efficiency line in there, but, for those district-wide staff contingents, technology, maintenance, grounds, others, there's no question that even if you have more students in one place, which does increase some of the challenges, having less places does give some positive effect. It does. So it's not a controlling issue, but it's an issue.
Has anyone tried to estimate the negative revenue aspect? Because inevitably, you close a school, you will lose some students.
We talked about that.
Lose some ADA. I mean, there's no way that you're going to get exactly the same kids still in your district, so.
I think that's right. We talked about it, a couple of meetings ago, and I sent out some information about inter-district, and I was sort of the composer, if you will, of the January 7th meeting. The stars were the elementary principals, but I was sort of doing the same thing I did at the Measure J thing with Josh. Anyhow, so, and I said right up front, it was one of the first things I said, that you need to keep this front and center as an issue. That having been said, we have no idea what the number is, right? So,
well, in some schools, like Summit would be dramatic.
Well, it would be dramatic, maybe. I mean, I think there's no question that if someone were to close, that right now I'll just rounding it off, about 15 students from Santa Paula. Some of those would not continue. Wherever the Summit students went, they would not, all the Santa Paula kids would not follow. But remember, 90% of our inter-district kids come from Ventura. Right? So, while Santa Paula is critical for Summit, it's a very small number district-wide. So the bigger issue really is what happens, I'll just call it the west side, okay? We have to always be thinking, and they do, eventually the board will, be thinking about if we have X schools open for certain grades, whether it's K-6 or something else, what might that result in terms of students who want to come here from Oakview. I mean, they have a great school, Sunset's a great school, but there are relationships, right, that have been built up here over years, so those kids want to come, and we have a wonderful inter-district relationship with Ventura, so our kids go there without any question. But that's the big question, I mean, a significant number of students, particularly at Miners, Oaks, and Miramonte, come from Oakview. Not the majority, but a significant number. In fact, I should have told you, maybe 1/3 of our students are intra-district kids.
Wow.
And about almost 10% are inter-district. I'm talking about the elementary.
Good thing I know what intra means.
As opposed to inter.
I get
Yes, all that training we got.
That's right. You notice I didn't open my computer surreptitiously and go, yeah, I get that.
More than one organization.
I'm going to Lexus right now and check this out.
That's what we call it.
Moving on to 7.5.3, we need to change the date for the March board meeting. So this is an action item. I hope everybody is able to bring their...
I'd like to suggest the 15th.
It's
the last possible day, I know, but...
That works for me.
That's all right, it's fine, I mean, it's fine for us.
It's fine for anybody. Have a problem
I
with
think
it?
it's fine. Yeah.
For Michael?
I think it should be fine.
Okay.
Okay, and the only other one, and you don't have to do it now, this is allowable without having it be set at a public meeting, but.
A special meeting.
Right, special meeting, I mean, literally 5 minutes. 5 minutes just to act on one item sometime in the early part of that 2-week period, probably the week of that March, what would have been that March 1st meeting, or the very latest, the next week, where we have to bring to you hopefully a small number of people who would be receiving a letter that they might not be retained next year. And again, then you act on it again in May, right, by May 15th, and we've rescinded a very high percentage of the letters that we asked you to approve in March. But we still have to get it done. We don't know who that is, or that we're going to be spending February figuring out that. So if you could just sort of be ready for Kathy, and we'll make it public, of course, be on the website and all that. Okay? Okay.
So are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion for moving the March meeting to March 15th.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so March 15th. There we go. Okay, Dr. Bangsu, do you have anything to update us?
I do. First of all, I want it noted for the public that Chris did in fact speak. He said he wouldn't, because Chris Hedge. He said he wouldn't, but he did.
Clearly the case, I can't help it.
You are one of those people.
I am one of those people, yes.
Those people meaning lawyers. Anyway, so but Chris has been just great on 7-11 committee. Actually, what I want to talk about in just a couple of minutes has been discussed in detail over the last half hour, but I just want to sort of bring an umbrella over it, and that is the general concept of collaboration. There are a lot of ways to run school districts. I've done it differently, and I've seen it done differently. One of the things I felt when I came here, and I hoped would occur, and it absolutely has, is that talented people who have ideas would enjoy coming together, sharing those ideas. Predominantly, almost entirely, will leave their egos at the door, which is really important. And that where there are appropriate lines between parent and community input to staff, administration being one part of that staff, that when the input is received, people who offered that input are trusting that the people who receive the input will do right things with it. Okay? And I've seen that now for well over 6 years. What I'm seeing now is even more of that, right? Because we've formed these committees, either because we're required to do so, as in 7-11, right? Or we decided to do so in the case of the three that we talked about here: volunteer, calendar, and Measure J. And all the things that Kevin said and Mike seconded are absolutely true about that committee, absolutely certainly true when it comes to the 7-11 committee. And then I'd just like to speak to two people in the audience who represent all of our staff. Well, actually, with Teresa here, everybody represents staff. So you're either in classified, certificated as a faculty or administration. And I can tell you unequivocally that those groups work exceptionally well together. Chuck has been fabulous personally in attending, I don't know how many meetings over the last couple of months, but every time I look up, he's there. And he's not only the president of the union, but he represents Angie, has been incredibly accessible. I don't know how many emails we've exchanged, including several today, and she's always trying to find ways to bring not only herself, but other people to the table to talk about whatever the issues are. We have our monthly meeting on Thursday, where I meet either with Angie alone or with Angie and other members of her executive committee. And now this all comes together in addition to all these committees, whereby I'll be calling back together in the next week or two. It's a committee that I've had every year since I've been here, and that is, I'll just call it, we eventually called it the Association Administration Budget Committee. And what that is a 7-member committee, or up to 7. President and another representative from each of the 2 unions. I suspect Angie might want to bring Merv, okay? And Chuck is absolutely, bring anybody else you'd like, or you do it yourself, or just have 2 other people come. So that's 4, and it's designed specifically to have more members of the union leadership than administration. And the 3 administration members, in this case, will be Laura, Andy, and I'll be the 7th, and I'll chair it. And what we do then, as we construct the first look at the budget, which will be coming to you obviously in the spring, is we just put every single piece of information on the table. There's not a single dollar that is unrepresented in that discussion. And when the union leadership leaves and reports back to their membership, they know everything we know. Okay, and so then when we can do all that, and then in fact, part of the end of the story is, as you know from tonight, we need to sit down and negotiate, right? The compensation part of all that. Then the union leadership has all the information about staffing, people, number of people, non-staffing costs, and then we fit in the compensation. Well, frankly, for most of the years, it was a matter of how many furlough days we're going to have, right, in order to make the budget work. Not an issue for this coming year. There will be a full school year, and now we have to figure out, going back to last spring when we had our discussions about what the 2015-16 compensation picture would look like, now we have to re-up that conversation and see how much progress we can make. So I guess the beginning and the end of the story is this district operates collaboratively, and we do it because we enjoy it and it works best, not because someone's forcing us to do it. And again, it's really critical when you do that people trust each other so that they can say what they have to say, and then other people, other than if they're not the decision makers, let other people make the decision based on what the input was. Okay? And that's what we've done for many years and what we're going to continue to do. And I think the committee work that was discussed tonight is emblematic of that.
Well said.
Any items for future agendas?
I do have one. It hit me as we were talking, and Hank addressed it a little bit. We're doing great on adopting technology. But I'm afraid for what happens when this stuff gets old and breaks.
Yeah. Like I said, 100, 200,000.
And it might be good if it sounds like almost every student in the elementary, through their parents or through the school, is getting Chromebooks.
Well, we're gaining on it. The truth is, and that's what I told you about that meeting that we're having with OEF. In fact, by tomorrow noon, I'll have all the information to be very specific about that, and I can send you. So, the goal is different in each school, depending on PTA, PTO, the way in which principals have spent money over the years. So, like I said, there is not equity, and I've never really felt comfortable with that. But we also don't have enough money to make equity happen. So you either say, and this is not what I've done, you either say to the principal, don't do that. Don't create that initiative, right? Or you let the creativity and the generosity and passion and all that unfold at school A, which is more than school B, which is more than C or D or E, right? It's the truth, but we're not there. We're there grades 3 through 6 in Vermont, plus some in K through 2. The goal is to have K6 at TOPA at some point in time, right? So remember I said there? So they're working on that. Now I need to work with OEF, and when Andy and I sit down and look at our budget, what can we do together to create as much equity as possible, bringing the other 3 schools along.
And it would be good to know, maybe 100 or 200 is the right number, but if you could check into that, what will be required if we have to replace these every 3 years? Just minimum requirements to be able to support Common Core testing, the assessment test, minimum requirements to implement the programs that we're implementing, and then...
Well, including, really great that you said that. I know how much you care about technology. And one of the things that I raised when these initiatives unfolded is, well, who's going to staff this, right? So, we are going to be increasing this very minimal, just like grounds and just like maintenance. I guess the number 2 applies all over, right? So we have 2, it's a little bit like Noah's Ark, right? So we have 2 grounds, 2 maintenance, and 2 technology people, So We're increasing, we increased grounds, sort of, this year. We did, by a person, but doing a lot of different things. And we're going to be increasing technology staff by 50%, right? From 2 to 3. Gotta watch those percentages, right? You gotta watch those percentages. But we need to. We need to. David Rogers can only do so much, right? And, Jesse and Matt are working hard, but that's it, right? So, it's exciting to have a lot of technology, but there's a lot of infrastructure stuff, that goes with it, right?
Well, it does, and if, like, we were running on the same textbooks for I don't know how many years, and the same buildings that were falling apart for however many years, and computers don't last that long.
No.
And if they all break, we wake up one morning, what do we do?
Yeah. We heard tonight, Catherine said thank you for the, fixing the equipment, right? That was 5 years old. It was the original equipment that OEF gave to us for the K through 8 math program.
Well, right now we are saving on heat, so we've got that going. Gosh, it's like 50.
It's comfortable.
Are you counting down?
So we're doing our part.
Anyway, I hear what you're saying. You know what? Okay, so are you saying, would you like an agenda item on sort of how we're dealing with technology?
Or a Friday report?
I think it would be good for us to know and for the community to know.
I'd like to do that. I think that'd be cool.
Okay.
I think that'd be cool.
Given that technology actually is sort of the foundation of where we're headed in the future, I think what Dana's saying is correct. And it even goes beyond just replacement timing as more of what's our technology strat plan?
Right. Well, we have a plan. You have to have a plan.
Master plan.
We have a master plan. You have to have a master plan. Again, now, how much of it is reality is another issue. Sometimes you have these plans that the state requires, and it's like it's a 3-ring binder.
Aspirational.
Okay, so, but we do, but it certainly doesn't reflect what's happened in the last 2 years through OEF at the junior high and high school. They're way in advance of the elementary schools, and way doing a lot of things that they never talked about 4 years ago.
Okay, thank you. All
I
right.
have a few.
You have a couple?
Just a couple.
Okay.
First, I've been interacting with Hank a little bit on the football coach, and I think at some point.
Yes, March board meeting.
When,
It's March or April. I gotta be sure that Lance can get here and he has some time to think about it, but maybe, you mentioned in the last meeting.
On the concussions.
The concussion.
So Al Stroberg, I don't know, he reached out to some of us, and, he's a local doctor, former football player, loves football, but he did feel that it might be something that the school board should consider, just looking into the question of head injuries in football. And I think we all would agree that it would be nice to meet the coach and find out what we're doing in Ojai, Nordhoff to enhance safety, and that would be a good discussion. The other thing, and I've interacted with Hank and Linda on this, is that I feel like I had a personal experience with my kid crossing the road in front of Nordhoff, and literally came so close to being hit by a car going about 50. And so I've been looking into the idea of what we can do traffic-wise over there, and Greg Grant has been great. One of the things Greg had suggested was, I think first, that it's Caltrans.
Greg is?
Greg is, well, I don't know his formal position.
He's the, what is he, I don't know what his formal title is, but like, he's Public Works. He's Public Works Director. Public Works Director, thank you, at the city, thanks.
So, apparently it's a Caltrans, it's actually controlled by Caltrans, but he had a suggestion that we could potentially put in some kind of a flashing light on the crosswalk, and we could do that, and he mentioned he thought it would be give or take $15,000, and maybe we could raise money for that or something, and that's one idea. It also, I'm more aspirational than I personally think that we should get a stoplight. I think that there should be a stoplight. Among other things, if you're dropping a kid off in Nordhoff in the morning, what has happened is everyone has figured out that you can't make a left into the parking lot, so what everyone does now is they go around, they come up, and they're making a right turn. But there's such a long line of cars making a right turn, you can never take a left until you're the rude guy who goes like, I'm just making a left turn now. So it just would be great, but apparently Caltrans is in control of that. But I also note that Caltrans got hit with a huge verdict recently in Ventura for an unsafe condition, so maybe they're a little more amenable to, dealing with unsafe conditions, because it certainly seems like an unsafe condition. Linda brought up something I didn't know about, which is horrible, tragic, with Fred Favre's son, I guess.
Right, yeah, Dr. Favre's son was, I think it was the second year I was teaching at Nordhoff. And then, I think it was maybe it was the mid-90s, I'm trying to remember exactly the dates. We had a rash of kids getting hit walking across the street. And actually, I used to ride my bicycle to school a couple days a week, and there used to be a crosswalk, there were two crosswalks at that entrance exit right there in front of the old office. And a gravel truck was coming, speeding through the intersection with all these students and everything, and there were four of us standing we had just stepped off the curb in the middle aisle there, and we actually jumped backwards to avoid being hit by this gravel truck. It was one of the most scary moments of my life, I must say. So it is very, very dangerous there, and there are a lot of people that go through that just, for some reason, don't pay attention to all the signs that are there, and the flashing crosswalk that's now in front of the school. So
it's also hard if you're the car behind, like there's a car here, and it sees the person, and you're here, you don't see the person that's crossing. So I've sometimes gone, and I see them slowing down. By the time I see them slowing down, I've already almost passed them, and I have to put on my brake because I couldn't see the pedestrian past that corner.
Kevin, you've taken the initiative, I know you have, and I've read the back and forth. I know, Dave Monson works on safety of the campus all the time. I would say, well, the board certainly should know what we're doing. Let's work on it. Let's keep working on it. Andy, Josh, Kevin.
I'm gonna see what Caltrans has to say.
I think Steve Bennett had a lot to do with putting in that light right near Miramonte School.
Right.
So he might be an advocate for it.
You're right.
That's a good idea.
He would be, and he knows Nordhoff.
And even if the light only operates a couple of hours a day, having it on, I think it would be terribly annoying, having it 24 hours.
Right, no reason to stop sometimes.
Right, but pick up and drop off, it'd be super helpful. I've come in there every different direction, and it's not good.
Don't go NIMBY on us now, come on, we need it.
Well, you can just have the.
You drive along there?
That's a good idea.
Well, I do drive along there, but I've also, dropped students off there a lot.
They might be more receptive to that, though.
Is there some way that we could loop the city into this conversation, with the complete streets and the safe path to every school?
Especially now that they're looking at safe bicycle routes.
Right.
Yeah, because that's definitely not a safe, you can't get to Nordhoff safely.
Didn't they get like a $2 million grant or something?
Well,
something like that, I just read about. They did, they got a $2 million grant.
Well, there you go.
Figure it out.
I have one more thing. It's not an agenda item, but I want to give a shout out to our local AYSO teams.
Oh, yeah.
I am a co-coach of the U12 Girls All-Star team. Our team, as well as the U14 Girls All-Stars, as well as the U12 Boys All-Stars, all are going to the state championships. We all played in the sectional championship, which is all of Ventura and all of Santa Barbara. We all played North Oxnard teams in the finals, and we all lost. Although we lost 3-all after overtime, we lost in penalty kicks. But what's amazing is, but the amazing thing is, this little town Ojai has got, and the U12 boys team is just incredible. It was like them losing was like the New England Patriots losing to like the Jets or something. But anyway, it's really neat. And there's several of so it's both all-star teams have state, opportunities if they are first or second in the whole section, and also the regular teams have their own playoff, and we have like 3 teams from the regular division also who finished in the top 2 of, again, the whole county of Ventura and Santa Barbara.
Wow.
Is that because we're filling in the gopher holes with the dirt?
I think that's it. Yeah.
I think it's because they can play with the gopher holes, and when they get on a clean right there,
home field advantage. Home field advantage.
It's like swinging
run around. Whoop! He's like That's great. That's really cool.
All right, moving on to the consent calendar. I would like to thank our donors to the district. $3,000 for Chromebooks to TOPA, donated by an anonymous person. $500, Las Posas Child Care Center donated to grant to Miners Oaks for playground equipment. The same organization donated $500 to Topatopa for headphones. So thank you very much.
And BC Innovates for funding the Health Science Academy trip.
Yes.
That's fabulous.
Yep.
Who's BC Innovative?
And of course,
I don't know.
it's the Career Technical
Career
Education Program at Ventura County Schools. So consent calendar, any questions or any other comments about the consent calendar? Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.